Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be working on the 2020 Nissan NV200. Just going to do a basic oil change. Going to check the air filter on it, check the tires, make sure there's no nails in it. We're going to need a few basic tools to do the oil change. You're going to need a 14mm wrench. You need a flathead screwdriver. I'm going to show you where the plastic skid plate is. If you've got a lift or you can get under here a little bit better than I'm going to be able to, you probably don't need that. You can reach through the front of the engine. It's just inconvenient and it's really easy to drop the skid plate. So we're going to drop the skid plate. You need a 10mm socket, oil filter, funnel, and of course someplace to drain your oil into. So if you haven't changed the oil on this vehicle, the oil drain pan, the plug is in the back of the motor towards the passenger side. So if you've got a lifter vehicle like I do, I've got the jack under the left side of the vehicle. If you're going to jack your vehicle up, I've been working on cars for 30 years. Make sure you support the vehicle underneath there. Don't depend on your hydraulic jack to save your life. If for some reason the hydraulic jack fails, the vehicle is going to fall and probably crush you. If you're going to get under there without anything underneath there, at least make sure that any vital body part is not under there. So I've raised my vehicle on the passenger side enough that I can get my hand under there. I can reach the oil filter, I can reach the skid plate, and I can get the drain plug out. One more thing you might need, I always use a couple shop towels. This is old, dirty. This is basically going to be my cleanup rags. When I take the oil filter off, if I get dirty oil, whatever, it's going to go in this one because this one is basically done for. I've got a fairly newer towel that I'm going to use to, of course, clean my hands, clean up the filter and stuff so I can put it on nice and clean. So dirty old shop towel or paper towels, whatever you're going to use to clean up with, and then something to try to stay clean with so you don't get oil everywhere. Now it's going to be kind of cramped under here. Again, I don't have a lift. I apologize, but I'll show you the best way I can. In the front here, this is the plastic skid plate that's going to cover the oil filter. So the oil filter is basically almost in the middle of the engine. There are 10mm bolts that go across the front of here. We're going to drop these. This will let the front of this down. In the back, get the camera at the right angle here, are little push tabs. So there's 4 of these, 2 here, 2 on the other side. Now if you don't mind bending your skid plate all up, you can probably pull these 2 down, fold this thing forward, and get your oil filter out of there. So first thing I want to do is I want to get the skid plate out of the way. These little push tabs, you just put a flathead screwdriver in it and you give it a twist. It doesn't pop out all the way the first time. If you rotate the entire thing, you can usually get on the other side of it. Like so. And just keep going back and forth. This one's never been out, so it's a little bit tighter than what some of them are. And that pin pops out. And I'll show you when I put them back in exactly how those work. So there's 2 on this side, and it looks like 2 on the other side, so I'm going to pop those out real quick. So as you can see, I pulled just this one side down. Again, I can actually see my oil filter. I don't know if I get the camera in there or not, but I can see the oil filter right here. So in this case, I really don't need to drop this entire skid plate. If you wanted to, you pull the 2 tabs off the other side and remove those 10mm bolts in the front. So this is more just a convenience for you. If you can't see it, you can't get to it, then take that plate off. If you can reach it like I can, leave the plate on. So the next thing I want to do is I want to get the oil draining. So in the back of the engine, there's our 14mm drain plug. And if you're looking at the engine from the back, it would be lefty loosey, righty tighty. So I'm just going to turn that left, and you notice it's not super tight. These only get torqued to about 15 foot-pounds. So that's not like super tight because you don't want to break your drain plug off. You don't want to tear up anything in the engine. So I'm going to loosen that a little bit. I'm not going to take it all the way out yet. I've grabbed my disposable rag in case I make a mess. I'm going to put my hands under there. And now if you want to wear gloves for this, you can. Oil is definitely not good for your skin, so drain that. I'm going to get it right in the hole so I don't have to clean up as much on the top, but depending on the drain pan you have. I bought that one, it looked good, it looks like it seals good, but In all actuality, it just makes a big mess on the top of it. Don't really like it. But it does hold at least 5.5, 6 quarts of oil. It says 10 on the side, but I wouldn't put 10 in it. So while that's draining, I grabbed my other oil filter wrench. This one's more like a pair of locking pliers. In order to stay out of the camera angle a little bit better, I tried to do it with a regular wrench, but I'm just going to get in the camera way. I'll switch over to these. This is the same thing. We're going to go lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. See if I can get my wrench adjusted here. Again, I apologize. It's just hard to get into these angles without compromising the camera position. Now this is going to be the same as the plug. You don't want to take that loose all the way yet, just because you're going to make a mess. I want to take my drain plug. I'm going to wipe it off really good. I'm going to check the gasket on the bottom, which is still good. Make sure you still have one. Check the hole where the oil comes out at. Make sure there's no other gasket on there, because the last thing you want to do is double gasket that. I'm going to just put my plug back in real quick. That way I can move my drip pan. Now, up to you. That should be torqued, like I said, 18 foot-pounds. If it's copper or brass gas, or like a nickel gasket, it should be like 22 foot-pounds. I spent the first 3 years of my adult career changing oil for a living. So I've tightened down many drain plugs. So I've got a good idea of where it goes, but again, technically it should be 18 foot-pounds. Okay, after I slid my drain pan back, I got my plug tightened. I'm going to have to move the camera here because I can't get my arm in there and the camera, so I'll slide that out of the way so I can actually reach up in here. I'm just going to take my rag for a little bit better grip, and when it starts dripping I can actually not make a total mess. And we're just going to take that the rest of the way off. Alright, so after our plug is tight, the next thing we want to do is we want to spin our oil filter off. I'm going to try to do this without making a mess and without getting in the way. Make sure your drip pan is underneath of it there. Always just loosen it up a little bit. Let what little bit of oil's in there drip out. This is a small filter. Probably holds maybe 1/4 of a quart. So give it a couple seconds just to drip out so you're not making a complete mess on your floor in your drip pan or when you slide it off there. And again, this is so much easier when you're not trying to stay out of the way of the camera. And I'm doing it left-handed also, and I'm a right-handed person. So I'm going to take the filter off. I want to pull straight back a little bit and tip it down. I'm going to try not to drip it into my splash guard or into my skid plate. Once I get the filter off, take your rag, physically reach up in there where the oil filter receiver is and wipe the front of it off. This does two things. One is it keeps your receiver clean, and two, it makes sure the old gasket actually came off of the filter. Next thing to do, look at the bottom of the filter, make sure the gasket's on there, which it is. The next thing you want to do is you want to prime your oil filter. Basically these come dry. Depending on the size of the engine, this is a 2-liter engine and this only holds 1/4 of a quart of oil or so. But basically if you put a dry filter on there, when you start the engine, there's a few seconds that your engine basically has 0 oil in it, because the oil pump sucks through here. So you're going to suck, basically it's going to knock or bang if you have ever done this before without priming the oil filter. You'll know what I'm talking about, but not good for your engine to not prime that filter. So we're just going to take a little bit of oil and fill this filter up the best we can. Now I use 5-gallon jugs usually to do my oil. So this is left over from the last oil change I did. Make sure that your oil is the actual right oil for your engine. It's usually stated in your owner's manual or up underneath the hood. So I've got a smaller jug here that's about half empty. That makes it easier for me to pour. And I'm going to pour this right down the middle of the filter. Go slow because it only holds a quarter of a quart. You want it to bubble up a little bit. And we actually want to let it sit there for a few seconds. So while that's bubbling, it's soaking into the paper filter that's inside, or the material filter, depending on the filter you buy. Make sure you take your finger and oil the outside of this O-ring. If you don't oil this O-ring, next time you go to take this off, it may be stuck on there good. You end up crushing the filter, having a hard time getting it off there. So a little bit of oil in there right now makes it come off a whole lot easier. And again, this is just pressure fit on there. So when you put this on there, if you can get your hand up under there and grab it, a good twist with it is all you need. If you feel uncomfortable, after you get as tight as you can with your hand, quarter turn at the most afterwards. Over tightening your filter, not good. It's just going to get stuck on there next time you take it off. So now that's drained almost back down to the bottom again while I oiled that. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more oil in here. Now again, it doesn't do any good to fill it completely to the top, because when you go to put it up in there, when you turn it sideways, half the oil is going to run back out anyhow. So we just want the paper full, and we want as much oil in there as we can when we go to put it on there. So I don't know how well you can see down in there, but I've got about halfway up. And again, while I'm getting back down there, getting ready to put it on, this is going to soak into that filter even more. Once you get that started, you'll see I didn't lose very much oil at all. Again, sorry, this is left-handed backwards and kind of upside down than what I would normally do without the camera in the way. So I'm going to wipe off a little bit of oil I did spill on the outside. My towel. Let my hand tighten this as tight as I can get it. And probably just move the camera a bit. And again, now I've got a pretty good grip. So I'm going to leave mine right like it is. Again, depending on your grip, if you don't feel comfortable with it, take your oil filter wrench, back up in there, and again, no more than a quarter of a turn, because you will over tighten it. Alright, so I'm going to slide my pan out from under here. And the next thing we want to do is we want to put our plate back on. So here are the tabs we pulled out from under there. The way this works, if you pull this pin out while we've got it out of here, pull it out as far as you can. So it should be out probably half the distance of what it was. And what happens is this pushes through the plastic. And when you push the pin in, it just spreads the plastic back out, and that's all that keeps it up. So I pulled both of these back out. So we're going to slide the pan, we're going to lift it back up in there, push this up through, and then we're just going to push that tab shut. Yeah, I'll just try to wipe off anything that I touched in the meantime. So, tab goes up, or the pin goes up. Make sure when you put your pin in, it goes all the way through both sides. So I'm all the way in, I push up hard. Just take your finger and push it in. So again, make sure you're through both pieces of plastic. Push in, and that's back on the way it was. So our next step is put oil in. Underneath your hood, you'll find your sticker. There's usually an emission sticker, and it'll tell you what oil you should use. Mine says 5W30. We're going to use synthetic oil. A long time ago, these used to actually tell you 4.5 quarts, 5 quarts, 3 quarts, whatever it took. So I had to dig in the manual. This one says 5.5 quarts, which seems like a lot for a 2-liter. But we're going to put 5 in it, and I've got about a quarter in that filter. We're going to start it up. We'll check the oil again. If I need to add another half or another quarter, we will. Hopefully I don't have to take any back out, because I hate taking them off. So I've cleaned out the inside of my filter with my rag first of all. And basically we're going to add 5 quarts of oil. I'm not going to make you watch me to do that. That's 5 quarts in the engine, quarter of a quart in the filter. Again, that seemed like a lot for me, but that's what the specs say, so that's what we're going to start with. Do that so I don't drip oil all over the place. Keep my rag underneath of it. So I get it out from under the vehicle. So not dripping all over the engine. Make sure you put your cap back on. And if you have any doubts before you start your engine, overfilling an engine is bad too. That can force oil to go up in the valves, down your pistons, places where it's not supposed to be at. So make sure you don't overfill your engine. And I don't know why that won't start back on there, probably because it's plastic going into aluminum. Doesn't like to fit well. So our cap's back on. I'm just going to pull the stick just to check. And right now my stick is showing right on the full mark. Which means when I start it up, it's going to suck that other quarter of a quart back into the filter. And I'm probably going to have to add that quarter of a quart back into it. But if in doubt, pull the stick first like I just did and check it. So my oil cap's tight. The next thing I want to do is I want to start the engine. Don't want to rev it, but rev it up to 3,000 or 4,000 RPMs. Let it run for a few seconds, shut it back off, check your oil level. So I started the engine, let it run for a few seconds, kind of idled it up a little bit. Before we check it for the last time, make sure you take your jack out because the motor's tilted sideways, so the oil's going to change direction. But before I do that, I always like to look under the vehicle. Make sure we don't have any obvious drips or leaks. So I'm back under here. There's nothing on my oil pan. It's dry. I'm going to wipe everything off really good. Just to make sure if we see something later, you can tell where it's coming from. Make sure you wipe the ledge of your oil pan off in the front, because that oil filter actually sits back over a little bit, and if you don't, you might see some drips on your ground, or you might drip it on your driveway or something. So make sure you wipe that down. Again, if you pull that skid plate off, you can see it a lot better. You can actually take some detail spray or something, spray it up in there, and clean it off real good. Just want to drop the jack, check our oil level. We'll check a couple of vehicles level again. We'll check our oil, wipe it off really good, try not to clean it all over the place like I just did. Trying to rush. Take out slow, make sure it goes all the way. And try to get on the camera there. I'm actually right on the full line. So that wasn't 5.5 quarts, that was 5.25 quarts. Again, if you overfill just a little bit, it's not going to hurt anything. If you overfill a lot of it, like if you're half a quart, 3/4 of a quart over, 1 quart over, you can still do more damage to the engine that way, just as much as not running any oil at all. So I'm going to double check my oil filter cap, it's tight, or my oil fill cap, tight. Dipstick's in all the way. So we're going to check our air filter while we're in here. This only got 5,000 miles on it, so I'm pretty sure my air filter is good. To do this, these newer styles are a little bit different than the old style. Just push in a little bit on that tab. There's one on the other side. Push in a little bit and pull straight out on this. This little cap comes off. And the air filter literally just drops down in the hole there. So I'm in good shape. Top's clean. Like I said, it doesn't have many miles on it. Look down in the air box, make sure there's nothing in there. If there was something in there, get your shop vac out, actually get down in there and clean it all out. Now put this back in. When you drop this down in the hole, you'll see this lifts up and down a little bit. These two little wedges under here actually go underneath at the bottom of that. So you got to lift it up a little bit. You want to start the wedges under the filter first, so it actually lifts up and makes a seal. If not, you'll never get that thing in there. And again, I apologize. It's a lot easier if you're not trying to get out of the camera way. So you lift that up a little bit, slide those little wedges under, and then snap it right back in. And again, that's the Nissan NV200 Mini Cargo van. Oil change, air filter change, top off the fluids. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. Please click like and subscribe if you haven't already. And as I do more videos on maintenance and stuff on this vehicle, I will put them in a playlist and tag them all together.